This is the Umbrella Academy on TV Podcast Industries. We're discussing Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episode 2, The Frankel Footage.
Where did you get the film? The Frankel footage. The truth this time.
You know this lunatic?
New acquaintance. He's harmless.
Are you sure about that?
Are you or are you not an enemy of the people?
Well, that's such an
Really
open-ended
depends on
question
the
if you
people.
think about it, yeah.
You move one more muscle, I will blow your brains out.
You want to take this or should I?
Oh, I got him.
Hey, Lila.
What the hell just happened?
Welcome back, fellow Academy alumni. This is TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episode 2, The Frankel Footage. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Brolly Dollies. How are you doing? And just a quick question. How did yogurt know when to stop being milk? That is the question for this podcast. I am one of your other hosts, John.
And rounding out this trio, I'm Chris. And I really don't know. You're going to have to ask the milk itself. It's kind of like a glow up, isn't it?
Exactly. That is the pub quiz question.
No, it's not.
So you better start thinking, ladies and gentlemen.
I wonder if you do answer that question, if you want to email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with your answer as to why milk decided to be yogurt. Yeah, I think we could probably give you a good prize if you come up with a good answer to that. What do you think?
I think it's a superpower.
I think it might be.
I think like at a certain point in time, 43 milks were chosen across the world to become yogurts, and that's just what they are now.
All milked at exactly the same time. Yeah.
It is ultimately the chemical reaction of an acid to curdle the milk.
Okay, doctor.
So you could actually probably work it out in terms of when it happened, but whether milk is sentient enough to know to do it, I doubt that very much.
Right. So
but,
we're looking for a much more interesting answer than that to win a prize. If
And
you have
we'll-
an exciting and fun answer to that rather than the actual chemical reaction, I'd love to hear
that
it.
is true. And the prize could be like a 6-pack of yacht plate or petit falou.
Well, since we're usually posting it rather than dropping it to people's doors, I'm not too sure about sending yogurt through the post. So maybe not that. Maybe something that will survive the post, at least.
I literally have do you remember that scene in A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where the whale is just falling through the air?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's about that point that the whale started to become sentient and believe and start thinking about what it was trying to do and why it was falling. And
Yeah, exactly.
why was it a potted plant? I'm literally like, and it's about that time the milk began to think, why? Why should I become yogurt now? No, maybe now.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm going to become yogurt. Splat.
I love it. You see the existential questions that come from an episode of the Umbrella Academy. We're on to our discussions about the second episode. Hopefully you've heard our first episode discussion about the show. This episode, we're going to be talking about episode 2, the Frankel footage of season 2.
This is a double header.
It is, yes, but just because we're releasing them a lot quicker, rather than covering 2 episodes within one episode, we're going to separate them out and have them as 2 separate episodes.
So you know what to do. Make sure you head over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industry where you can support us for just $1. I was going to say a buck because I like the sound of a buck. I don't know, you Americans. Buck sounds better than a dollar. Dollar bill, y'all. But you can support us for that. Of course, in these crazy times, if you don't have any cash to spare, do not worry. We completely understand. You can support us by going over to tvpodcastindustries.com and making sure that you go and follow us, share the podcast, send a review. We are on every good and evil podcast catcher around the world, but you can also find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, everywhere, Spotify. Where is a podcast? We were there. But if we're not, then go speak to Derek because he organizes that.
Well, one of my favorite new ones that we're on is Podchaser. I'm really enjoying that platform. They've done a great job, but it just seems like everybody kind of stuck in Google and Apple and Spotify. But check out Podchaser if you haven't checked it out. They've got a really good mechanism of kind of pairing together podcasts, much better than most of the others. Kind of able to find some podcasts that I wouldn't be able to find anywhere else. It's a really good platform.
Absolutely. And of course, if you are in the business of time travel like number 5, then we will broadcast nicely over an FM frequency as well.
Maybe at this stage with 505 episodes now, or 504 episodes now, I should be able to set up a radio channel that just broadcasts us all day and all night talking about
Oh
about
my
the shows.
God. It'd be like those 24-hour chill beats on YouTube.
There you go.
But it would just be 24 hours of Crazy Chris and his gang.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm just changing. I'm changing the video. I'm giving the audience what they want.
I love it. I love it. And we are releasing
fake news.
we are releasing these episodes a bit earlier over on Patreon. And what we're hoping to do is when we release them to our main feed on TV Podcast Industries, add in any thoughts you have about the episodes of the shows. Email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with your thoughts about any of the episodes of Umbrella Academy Season 2. We'd love to hear your thoughts about the show. We're lucky enough to be watching them a little bit in advance. So these are all our thoughts, unspoiled by anybody else. So that's hopefully a good thing. There's some crazy stuff that's going on in this season. I think a little bit crazier even than season 1. So I'm intrigued to see what everybody thinks of it when these episodes come out on the 31st of July. So I'm really intrigued to hear what all of your thoughts are. Let's get into our discussion about the first episode of this podcast, episode 2, the Frankel Footage.
So, Derek, do you want to tell us who directed and wrote this episode?
Absolutely. The episode was written by Mark Goffman. He was a staff writer on The West Wing and then worked his way all the way up through shows like Elementary and Bull. He worked on season 1 of Umbrella Academy as well, so he is back for season 2. This is his first episode in season 2 that he's written. The episode was directed by someone that we've probably talked about more than almost anybody else in all of our shows, Steven Surgic, who directed episodes of every single one of the Marvel Defenders shows, including The Defenders and The Punisher. So been involved in so much of the work that we've done over the last 5 years, so much of the shows that we've covered over the last 5 years. I think if he'd done an episode of Picard and Watchmen and maybe Penny Dreadful, City of Angels, I think they're the only ones that he's missed out on. So great to have him back here. And there's definitely some touches in here that you see the style that Surgic brings to these shows. I'm sure we'll mention them as we go through the episode. He did direct the kind of season 1 2-parter, as I call it, the day that wasn't and the day that was, where everybody's kind of catching back up on things that they had done wrong, and it all gets reset and it goes again on the same day with different perspectives on it. So that was his touch. He directs both episode 2 and episode 3 of this season. So back-to-back episodes again. Really good to see him back here. Coming up, he will be jumping into the world of The Witcher. So something quite different for Steven Surgic. But we have covered The Witcher season 1 on our podcast, and we are definitely going to be covering season 2 as well. So excited to see what he's going to be doing, because he's going to get the opening 2 episodes of season 2 of The Witcher as well, which is going to be really interesting to see what he does in that universe.
No, definitely. He is one of our most prolifically discussed directors, as you say, and he brings that style. Once you know it's him, you can pick out, oh, well, yeah, because he uses that shot, and he definitely has it. You know the way you would say Cameron has a style, and most directors, after a certain period of time, you can kind of, like, it's a Michael Bay film has lens flare,
right?
It's kind of that kind of like,
yeah.
Everyone has that trademark, and his is usually just very well choreographed and kind of directed fights at the same time as very, I would say, strange angles.
He has some really good touches, and there's a reference in one of these episodes that I think he put in there on purpose that we'll talk about as we go into the episode. John, do you want to give us the synopsis for this episode of Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episode 3?
Sure. An incident at the Carousel bar leads Luther to Vanya. 5 finds an unsettling surprise in the film Hazel left in his pocket, and the cops come after Alison's husband, Raymond Chestnut.
Yeah, that was an interesting idea, having the cops come after him, even though it was Alison that used that basically took care of the racist dude that tried to stop them from having their meeting in episode 1. Kind of intriguing that she didn't use her power as well. So sure, we're going to find out much more about that. The way we cover our episodes is we choose a big moment from the episode each, and we talk around it and hopefully cover off everything that happens within the episode. Where are we going to start? Who wants to kick us off with their big moment for the episode? Chris, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Very much mine is Hargreaves is alive and kicking butt. But at least Pogo, who is slightly younger, is still wearing pants. He hasn't gone full 3-piece yet. He's still just in pants, but he's working his way up.
Little baby Pogo. Is this the baby Yoda of the Umbrella Academy universe?
I don't know, but I think so. I was
could
like,
be,
oh my god, he looks so cute. And then he scratches the hell out of number 5. This, very, very quickly for me, this was a nice kind of twist. Quickly breaking it down, what we can see is number 5 finds the Frankel footage, which was left in his pocket by Hazel. He then gets it kind of done and fixed. He finds Diego. He comes back. They view it. They find that their dad is there. Basically, the footage itself seems to be it's set in the future. It's the day JFK is attempted to be assassinated, or is assassinated in this case. And it's kind of like a tourist who a wife is filming her husband, and they're arguing over camera angles and lighting and, oh my god, you're not pointing it directly. Typical husband-wife stuff.
Absolutely.
As you know, anyone who's married knows, or long-term relationship, you will argue over the silliest things if it's on camera. And then what they do is they pause it, you would as an audience be like, oh my god, they're seeing like the grassy knoll shooter or something, but actually in fact they see what is their father. Yes. Reginald Hargreaves is alive and in Dallas in that future point. They find him. He's not listed under the Dallas phone book, but the Umbrella Academy that he formed in the 1800s when he arrived on Earth is in the it does have a company there, or an office. They go, it doesn't look like it's been used. It's a front. It hasn't been used in years from the level of dust. They are separate, where they separate. This is Diego and 5. 5 is confronted by Pogo after finding something about it's an invitation to a Spanish embassy or something like that, or an embassy party.
Yes. So they know where their father's going to be in the future is kind of the thing. So there is some way of tracking him down in the future from the information they found there. Just to mention, I do love the line between Diego and 5. I wonder if there's some kind of magical, timey-wimey way to find someone in the past. Here's a phone book.
Yeah, exactly.
Really good.
Love that.
Really good moments.
Love that.
And then Diego stalks his father, who quickly runs away, or what we think is running away, when in fact it's luring him to a abandoned warehouse with cool lighting. Because why not? To be fair, I'm just, as a quick aside, if I'm going to do death-defying martial arts stunts and have a fight to the death, I'm going to do it in an abandoned warehouse where there is cool lighting. I think that's we all have to make an agreement now. If we're ever going to do like a 3-way fight to the death, it has to be done and filmed at night with light pouring in from broken windows, just to really give it that je ne sais quoi.
I guess that'll be our 1000th episode.
I didn't get that it was an abandoned warehouse at all. I just thought it was a warehouse right next to, because it was a business place.
Well, the whole business is abandoned, is kind of thing. So I guess it's an abandoned warehouse.
Yeah, but like,
but it's broken windows and everything, and there's like random rebar kind of just sticking out of crates.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That was so cool. Like Diego's just about to stick his father with the rebar that he had in his hand, and we see Hargreaves sticking him in the belly with that hidden knife that he uses in calling Diego an amateur. It's like, that's really cool. There was a moment early on in the episode I was wondering whether it was actually Reginald Hargreaves, or maybe this was 5 that had gone back in the past, because we know he was an old man. He was in his late 50s at this time when he was in the past. So I was wondering whether the reveal was going to be he'd take off his hat and it's 5, but this is definitely a de-aged Colin Feore from the first series who played Reginald Hargreaves. It's definitely him. When we get into that fight, we see it from Diego's perspective, and it's definitely their father. But I was wondering whether it would just be something like 5 was hiding himself and pretending he was Hargreaves until that moment. But
yeah. And dare I say it, Diego got a daddy shank.
He did get a daddy shank. Yeah.
Oof, God, that's not something you want to hear.
No, exactly.
On the audio.
But yeah, no, the fight was great though. Yeah, the fight was, I loved it. And the put down by Reggie to Diego was good, but certainly yeah, I thought that was good, but it's still like the mystery of what's he doing there. Why has he? It feels like he's drawn them in some respects, even though that's probably not the case for sure. But because he's on that Frankel film, So yeah,
he doesn't know. He doesn't know about his kids. That's
Exactly.
the main thing.
Yeah.
Because it's so far in the past or his future. Time. But for me, so this is the bit I was talking about. It's very noticeable. The fight scenes, the choreography. That this is a Stephen joint. It like reminiscent of Iron Fist fights, Elektra fights, Daredevil fights. Of course, Diego does his superhero jumps and landings, and it looks great.
Yeah.
So for me, and I'm gonna go slightly faster. This was what I enjoyed. This is the element of the Umbrella Academy. Usually you've got a mystery. It's always why the apocalypse is going to happen.
Exactly.
Like it was like, and it's usually just one small clue that leads them on the way. Season 1, we had the eyeball. Season 2, it's the Frankel footage with, Hargreaves. So this is where we start to become, that we get drawn into this web of intrigue, and it's not even a web, it's a winding river of just craziness.
Yes, but it is an interesting idea, and I'm trying to piece it together, obviously, as we see, as you mentioned, Chris, that 5 does pick up the invitation, so he knows where Hargreaves may be in the future, which allows them to keep tracking him down. They've obviously spooked him from a little bit anyway, not too much because he thinks they're amateurs, but they've spooked him a little bit, so he may not be going back to the business again, but they do know where he's going to be in the future. There is that lovely touch just at the end as he walks away and you see Pogo coming out of the building, coming down, grabbing him by the hand, and the two of them walk off.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a great touch. But one thing to mention as well, obviously Pogo's not vocal here. Pogo's very well educated in the future. We see him kind of leading the family. He's been around with all of them since they were kids. And he's very intelligent in the future, whereas this Pogo seems to be very new to wearing pants, I suppose, and maybe the intelligence and the speech level hasn't caught up yet because he says nothing to anybody. So,
and I love that in this, I love the abandoned business with all the mannequins, the dust. It really kind of felt about like it is that reference to those kind of 1950s, 1960s experimental kind of labs or something where, that we've seen in so many of those TV shows from back then, or have been referenced in comics or TV, like Lost with the bunker,
yes,
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
for some reason my head's going to the non-existent 4th sequel to Indiana Jones, where he arrives at a nuclear testing place, something about a fridge where they nuke the fridge. I can't really remember. Does that movie exist, or is that something in my brain?
No, he gets into the fridge. Yeah. Let's forget about that. Okay. But I love that reference to the old kind of dystopian, nuclear age kind of experiments, that we've seen so many times. It's really a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. The painting on the wall where it's the window, the painting of the window, which just has a massive kind of mushroom cloud.
Yes.
It was like everything is sweet and it's a nice little home. And then I looked and I was like, hold on, wait. And then everything else about that first room is fine, except in the window, there's a painting of the landscape and a big mushroom cloud explosion.
The American nuclear family. Yes. Nice touch.
And you're right, John. It did whack of kind of Fallout, the video game, kind of that 60s sugar pop, kind of nuclear age.
Yeah. I'm wondering what is his business. Like, it seemed like when he arrived in that scene back in episode 9 of the first season, when he comes from space effectively and sets up this business, it seemed like they were going to sell umbrellas. But 60 years later, what is his business now? Or 70 years later, what is the business? Because it feels like they're making some kind of nuclear instructional videos or something like that. How to survive the apocalypse, maybe.
Nuclear umbrellas.
Maybe.
Yeah. So which is a bunker.
Stop, drop, and get under our umbrella.
Get into your bunker, yes. Maybe get under your umbrella. Chris,
have your tinned fruit to the ready and dried milk.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, that was my point. Really just interesting to see where it all lies. Will Diego survive? And I guess we'll find out in episode 3. But, John, what was your big point for episode 2?
It was hide and seek. It was the tracking down of Vanya by Luther. I really liked this. I thought it was really a nice little touch. And I almost kind of a nice little closeout from season 1, because I think if you go back to our season 1 coverage, the overview podcast that we did, one of the things I mentioned was just none of them deal with Vanya very well, either in what they say or in what they do. They kind of say one thing and then do the opposite, which absolutely, if I was Vanya, I'd be there going, what the hell? And I kind of really liked how they did this with, him picking up, the wallet of Sissy's husband, at the Carousel Club. And he sees Vanya picking up, Carl and, to take back to the farm. And he goes out there. And of course, it's all very ominous with the gun on the passenger seat, and so on. And I just kind of like the whole sort of look of this with the barn on the kind of crest of the rise. And you have Vanya playing hide and seek with Harlan, Sissy's kid. And I just kind of like how he comes in and ultimately ends off with him apologizing to Vanya. I mean, you do get the feeling he's going to take her out as a threat. And certainly it would be the time to do it, given that she doesn't know who she is. But, he says, I let you down. And I just kind of liked this whole aspect that they kind of have taken this through from season 1, potentially closed it off. So we'll see how things develop between these two and the rest of them through the rest of the season. But I thought it was really good. And I really kind of liked the fact that Sissy came up with her badass shotgun, because she's, and with her phrase, next time use the front door kind of thing, when he says, well, I brought your husband's wallet. But this is kind of as well, this is this first clue for Vanya of knowing that about other people who are her brother or know her.
Exactly.
And, this is this first kickoff moment, and it does trigger her memories in her dreams or whatever, which sees her heading out of the farmhouse that evening. So, something's been triggered within Vanya through this meeting with Luther. But I just kind of like the fact that he ultimately recognizes that he was a bit of a shit towards her.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of an interesting way they're handling this season as well. I like that they were all dropped, spread across time, and as we're going through the episodes here, each of them are finding different members of the family. So 5 found Diego and found Luther. Luther now found Vanya as well. So you're going to see how the rest of the cast are all finding each other over this time period that's been spread out. I just think it's a really good mechanism to be able to use for the season, isn't it?
Exactly. I think it's, season 1 was just showing how dysfunctional they were. And this is kind of them getting to know one another again in different ways, or getting to know themselves, so it's a great storytelling mechanism that they're trying to piece together again their relationships with one another. And I think it's a really good way of doing it. And I just like this for Luther, because I was there saying he was the least, he was the one that least connected with me. I thought the performance was great, all that, and in terms of that, but because of how he treated Vanya, you're just like going, real shit, like dipshit.
Well, it's the fact that he lost all of his confidence throughout season 1. He was supposed to be the leader of this team. He was supposed to get everything put upon him. He's supposed to tell everybody what to do. Nobody's listening to him anyway. But by the end of the season, he realizes actually there was loads of stuff being hidden from him as well, even though he was supposed to be the one with all the information to allow him to lead this team. So it even shows in this at the start of this episode when 5 saying to him, "You're number one." He's going, "There is no number one. There's no Umbrella Academy. There's none of you guys. I've been here on my own for a year. I'm making a life for myself." It's not a great life, but he's making a life for himself without any of them around. So he's really reluctant to go back and see them all. So I like that he's not trying to recruit Vanya when he goes to meet her. He's going to her just to apologize or kill her, one or the other, depending on whether he finds out that she remembers everything. But he's pretty convinced by that conversation that she doesn't remember anything at all. So he's going to let her live out her life and walk away and just at least apologize to her, which I thought was a good choice for the character.
Yeah. For me, this was the confirmation to the question we had last episode, which was she faking? Is she faking this? Like the dream sequence where she starts to remember, that is the proof that no, she does have, or she did have amnesia. Now, how much she's starting to remember is going to be, it morphs to that question.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, how much will she remember over each of the individual episodes?
I really like that she has such a small amount of memory and they have that conversation as well. Yeah, I think that's really good.
Now, John, the one thing I think is going to be really interesting based on your kind of point is when some of the others start to meet Vanya. Because you got to remember, Vanya slit Alison's throat, and to essentially kill her.
Yeah,
but this isn't that Vanya, and this is not that Alison.
Exactly,
no.
They're not the Alison who basically who is married, the Alison who is essentially living and a life away from the Umbrella Academy, and the Vanya who doesn't remember slitting Alison's throat, the Vanya who is good, who does not remember her past life. What's going to happen when those two meet now?
Absolutely.
Like, that's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. Like, I know at the end of season 1, it was Alison that was trying to say that she'll step in the way and the rest of the family kind of jumped Vanya. But you're absolutely right. Diego as well is someone that I'm intrigued to see what his opinion is or what happens to him when he meets Vanya, because he was very willing to just pull out the knife and kill her, basically. So will he be the most likely to attempt to kill Vanya as the season goes on, whether he meets her? So really intriguing. Yeah. Anything else on this point, John?
No, I think that's it, really. I think, Luther seems to be the one kind of struggling a lot, even though, Klaus, Alison, and Diego, they all don't know whether the others are alive. They've all kind of made a life for themselves in some way. Luther feels that with the ramifications of what happened in season 1, the whole thing with the moon and his dad and all of that, he is the one that seems to be, just struggling with this new reality for himself. I mean, even down to the fact that he's still insistent that he wants nothing to do with number 5's plan. And in a sense, the kind of almost pointless nature of what he's doing with the fighting, which is just to throw the fights so that his boss makes money. It all seems a little, he's lost at sea effectively here, and he's struggling to find that port in which to dock, so to speak. And I feel like this is kind of the first part of that, of him trying to make peace for himself so that he can sort of get better. So I think I just thought it was nice. I think it was a nice look back to the first season with how Vanya was kind of treated really by all the other members of the Seven, and really, it's a new kind of relationship that's developing as they reconnect. And so I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that a lot.
Derek, what's your massive point for this episode?
It is a massive point because it's the opening of this episode. I absolutely loved the return of the handler because I said at the top of our discussion here that there's some things that I think are even crazier this season than they were in season 1. They certainly upped the craziness with the return of the handler. I love that it opened up with the two guys about to put her into the fire, and she kind of makes a little movement, and one of the guys goes, "Oh no, someone that farted all the way into the furnace last time." And you're kind of wondering, because he doesn't seem very perceptive. You're kind of wondering, was that person alive as well? Just pushed him,
exactly.
But beautifully delivered line from the handler going, "Gershby to a hospital," made me laugh out loud.
That was just the way that was done was so funny. And of course, just, the school kid in me, intestinal gas, farts, what is not to like about a bit of gassy humour, to be honest.
Yeah. But she has...
I'm just so happy she's back.
She's such a great character. And I love that they start her out here where she's just been completely stripped of all of her authority. There's no respect given to her at all. She returns to the commission effectively, walks in through the door and everybody's kind of whispering about her. And then everybody just completely ignores her. I love that she does that thing where she flips off her coat and holds it out, waiting for somebody to take the coat from her.
Yeah,
and hang it up.
absolutely.
And nobody does. And then, as if the idea that a person who got shot in the brain with a bullet coming back to life wasn't enough to ask a new audience or the audience coming into season 2, we have the appearance of Carmichael, a comic book character who was the leader of the commission. He's the one that actually used to give Five his jobs, effectively. Carmichael is a comic book character. I think they call him AJ in this episode.
Yeah.
But he's effectively a fish in a bowl, smoking fish in a bowl, a talking smoking fish in a bowl.
A bureaucratic smoking fish head in a bowl.
Who wears a hat?
Who wears a hat.
That's so good.
I absolutely love the character design here. I love what they've done with it. The guys who did the CGI of the lip sync of this fish to how he talks. Because I was watching it wondering whether it's just a fish kind of doing the kind of bob as he talks, but they have genuinely matched his vocals to the fish mouth, and then he takes a cigarette, and blows smoke rings inside his fish bowl. Hilarious, so good, and wondering whether this will have a lot of people going, hang on a second, this is
absolutely
this is so much more to take than the first season.
Do you think that AJ then could really sissy that walk and slay the lip sync for his life on RuPaul? Because I thought it was so good, the whole chit chat between him and the handler, and just the moment as well when Herb is revealed to be her new supervisor. Kind of that whole thing of you can just sense the build up in her, and it just the whole release of it when she sees number 5's nameplate at her desk, and just being flung towards Herb. So good. What a kind of put down, really.
Absolutely, but I also love Herb, but he feels like every normal office worker who's gotten a promotion, someone that probably doesn't feel he deserves it, but has been working really hard for years. You know, we heard that he was working on one problem for 3.5 years last season. That's why the handler hates him, because he's pretty useless at his job, but he's been promoted. And so he has that little bit of confidence that comes from the promotion as well. So he walks into the room and effectively says he's her boss. And her response is basically, I've dropped bigger turds than someone like Herb. And he immediately goes, oh, you need more fiber then, thinking he's hilarious. So those two definitely not going to work very well together. I love the other co-worker, the one that used to sit beside Five, trying to be really nice to the handler as she comes in to sit down, saying, you know, if you want to go out for lunch sometime, we can go out for lunch today. There's some fun stuff on in the canteen. Handler very unhappy in her situation, telling her, if you speak to me one more time, I'm going to staple you to a wall. So yeah, love this situation where you have someone that was so much in charge of everything that went on, knew everything that was going on through history, really, because that was her whole job, and had such a powerful position. And now, because of Five, because of Cha-Cha and Hazel, going rogue almost in the last season, she's got nothing left. But she's kind of asking for an opportunity. So what we see towards the end of the episode is that she seems to be back in the 60s, and walking into possibly meet an earlier version of AJ, possibly meet some of the fish in that pet store that she goes into.
So yeah, that was my thing. I was like, as soon as I saw more goldfish, I was like, she's going to go in and kill him, and then that's probably him from the past, so then he doesn't become sentient, and then, oh my god. And yeah, that was the fun. The reason we are friends, and I'm going to put this out, the reason we're all friends, and the reason I had the same two thoughts. One, I went, wait, are they actually syncing the lips? And I paused it at live and went, oh, they are. Sweet. And then straight went from lip sync to, oh, John's going to want them to do a lip sync battle. I'm like, oh, literally, that was my thought process. And I went,
I love it.
Yeah. Now you just said that, I'm like, yeah, great.
That's exactly
this confirms why we're all friends.
I love it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the visit to the pet store, just quickly, because you have put out one question already that isn't actually the pub quiz question. But my other question for the episode is, what did the handler say to the little boy to make him pee his pants about fish and make him run out of the shop? What was it that she said to him? So if you have an answer to that, send that into us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, because I'd love to know what the hell it was that she said.
42.
There are 42 children.
No, just 42.
Okay.
It's just the answer to everything.
It's the answer to...
She just literally, she should have said, the world, it means nothing. It's just 42. What? What's 42?
I can't imagine. It has to be something else. It's probably something like I come from a place where those fish eat humans or something. Or maybe it's that. I don't know. But
I know who you're going to be. You're going to grow up old and alone by yourself. You won't marry. You won't have kids. Blah, 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 blah.
Maybe.
Like, if someone tells you your whole future as a kid.
That make
or
yourself, yeah.
There is no Santa Claus.
Chris, can't believe you've spoiled that for everybody. But it's just great to see Handler back. That's my big point for the episode. Any other mentions of where everybody else is for this episode? Anything that we have missed out on that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I've got, well, it's kind of in notes, I suppose, but I've got the whole many put downs of Diego.
Yes.
So Diego and Leela do kind of team up here. They also share a little snog with one another so that they don't get caught by the police, but they are on the run together and they have kind of teamed up here. But there are some great put downs of Diego, poor Diego. First from number 5, which is imagine Batman, then aim lower. As he's kind of transported into the back seat of this car that Diego and Leela have stolen. And then of course he tries to blow their cover as well because Diego kind of doesn't want anything to do with number 5, given that he didn't rescue him when he could. So, I do kind of like that. And even Leela, his kind of new little sidekick here, she, you know, they have this conversation about who they are, where they come from, and she goes, "You are an open book." You know, she knows him very well, and she goes, "You're an open book, Diego, for very dumb children." It's just like he cannot hide his intentional feelings very well at all.
One of my lines of the episode, really. It's just that idea that, you know, he thinks that he is almost Batman. He thinks he has this epic backstory that makes him who he is, and she's like, no, you're just a boy with daddy issues trying to prove to his dad that you're the hero.
Exactly.
Your dad hasn't even been born yet, or doesn't even know who you are yet. Sorry, his dad has obviously been born.
And then the critique then, as was mentioned in the fight between him and Reggie, amateur.
Yes.
Oh,
so good.
What a burn.
I am going to use that. You are an open book for very dumb people.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
Or dumb children. I'm like, that is my clap back now. That from now on.
I think I'm going to like Leela. I think she's got some good character about her to watch throughout the rest of the season. One character we didn't really mention much in this episode was Allison. You know, we mentioned early on in the synopsis that Ray gets arrested and brought to prison, and she doesn't use her rumor ability. She says something, has that moment where the police officer's eyes turn white because he hears the instruction she's about to give him, and then she stops and doesn't use her power. So that was an interesting little moment there. But we also have Claes in prison because he finished the last episode, just getting arrested and going to prison. He meets one of his cult members, I guess, who has the tattoos on both hands. Like, Kichi, that's it. He has the hello goodbye tattoos that Claes has on his hands. So a member of his organization, and Claes bumps into Ray, Allison's husband, in the prison. So a nice little connection there as well.
Yeah.
So another person finding at least someone connected to one of the other members of the Seven of the Umbrella Academy. So I love that he's got Kichi talking to him, asking him, you know, for some words of wisdom, and he delivers TLC's Waterfalls to him, which is a great little moment. And then, almost immediately trying to get away from Kichi, he talks to Ray, and Ray gives him another piece of wisdom. So almost as if Claes is looking for his own guidance and his own leader.
No, exactly. I kind of like the idea here that in Klaus's guru or prophet, we really see what on how he's gotten to that point, which is a lot of unreferenced steals from other people from the future, which I thought was really, really good. In typical Klaus fashion, I reckon.
Such a Klaus thing. Last people we need to talk about, I think, from the episode are the Swedes themselves, because we do get a really interesting scene where they go and find their accommodation for where they're going to be based in Texas. When they meet their new landlord, who tells them there's only one room available, and the next time you see her, it's just her head in the freezer. So I thought that was very interesting. Another great thing that we see in the show right throughout the first season is this idea that the Commission know where their assassins are at all times. So there is always a pipe available with their instructions for the assassins. I love, you hear the noise and then everybody kind of looks around the room to find out which wall they have to open to pick out their message. I think it's a really cool idea that this message will always appear wherever they are.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There's a moment in the house where, because they're all kind of dressed as milkmen, or one of them is, at least, and they've stolen a milk van, where it seems like he's drinking weird milk. Like, it looks CGI.
It was kind of silvery, kind of...
And lumpy. It looked lumpy.
Yeah. So I think it's potentially whatever gives them something.
Yeah.
Like, they don't seem overpowered. They don't seem superpowered.
But they also don't seem human.
Yeah, they don't seem normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They don't seem... So maybe they're machine Swedes?
Yeah, maybe they're robot assassins.
I don't know.
Robot assassins, Chris. Go for robot assassins. Always cool.
No, because I want to stick with the Swedes. So oh my God, they're IKEA assassins. So this is just the oil, the glue, the grease to keep them moving. So the IKEA-based assassins.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Meatballs.
I was like, that's weird that they've chosen to make that pint of milk, that bottle of milk, kind of look kind of slightly... dare I say it? Silvery, sort of greyish and lumpy. When I wondered what it was. Was it just it had gone off and was really grim, but he didn't care, or like some kind of special potion that they need?
Yeah, I think it's some kind of special potion or some kind of special thing to keep them on their game. But just wanted to mention them in this episode because I just thought it was a very funny and scary scene as they obviously remove the head of the landlord to get an extra room in her house. Any final notes about the episode that we haven't talked about?
I've just got kind of one, which is in relation to the Frankel Footage film, which is obviously of the JFK assassination, and in this one we see Sir Reggie Hargreaves there on the sort of grassy knoll, so to speak, with the umbrella.
Yeah, you would not be allowed in the academy if you keep calling him Reggie.
No, exactly. Sir Reggie, and but you know, this is a nod to the Zapruder film that was taken of the JFK assassination, you know, used in the Kevin Costner movie and used in the whole investigation of it. So
in real life. Yeah,
in real life. So just to, you know, I was kind of, I'd forgotten what the footage was called, and I was thinking it was the Frankel footage, but it is the Zapruder footage and film that was taken there on an 8mm camera. Yeah. I also thought as soon as I said Frankel footage, I couldn't stop saying Frankenfurter, Dr. Frankenfurter.
Because the big difference is the Zapruder footage in real life is the one that's supposed to prove there was a shooter on the grassy knoll, not from the book depository, not Lee Harvey Oswald. Exactly. That's what the investigation was. So exactly as I said, even when I saw the episode name being this, I was like, oh, okay, well, they're going to discover who the other shooter was. That's what it is. But this isn't the same footage. This is a couple arguing on the same day, and it's the one that points out that their father is there. So there is still the Zapruder footage out there.
Exactly.
Somebody else is also filming that day. So.
And speaking of Dr. Frankenfurter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I just feel that, I think it's because of Klaus. I think Klaus would be Dr. Frankenfurter.
I certainly think
or they would be really good friends.
Very likely. Very likely.
Very likely.
Yeah, I think so.
That's it for notes for the episode. Chris, anything you want to add?
Nothing from my side.
Okay.
I just want to discuss our next episode.
Okay, what did you think of the episode overall?
So I love this. See, episode 2 was the perfect kind of... It set up a few more questions. So, why is the handler back? How did she survive? We get all these answers. Essentially, it's also like, where are we going next? And it's I keep using the chess analogy at the moment.
I know.
But it's fun. It makes sense.
You can use checkers. You can use American football. You can use loads.
Okay, so let's go. The opposition are the offensive line it's kind of there now. The defensive backers are being set in place. We're gonna get a running play, But it's probably going to end in a sack.
Right.
For the commission.
And then they're going to need to use a Hail Mary in the future. Yep, love it.
Yes.
Love it.
John, what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'd give it 4 intestinal farts out of 5, although I suppose there's not many other types of farts, really.
Probably not.
But I really liked it. I loved the handler coming back and AJ, the bureaucratic fish head. I think that was just really good.
Yeah.
I think, the whole kind of mystery around Sir Reggie Hargreaves and his kind of front of a business was really good. I love that kind of vibe of Number 5 and Diego going to his business and it kind of being abandoned. It was just really good. And again, just the development of all the members of the academy that it's a really, really great build on episode 1, and in particular, I just really like the kind of delicate touch of Luther tracking Vanya down and kind of just putting it on that knife edge of between, is he going to shoot her or not? I mean, you do think he is, but then he kind of pulls back and realizes that he has something that he needs to apologize for to Vanya, given the events of season 1. So yeah, I thought this was a really good second episode. I can't wait really to get further into the show, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Loving the mechanism of having everybody apart and just each individual member finding people in different ways and finding partners of people and finding the family that Vanya's connected with. All of that stuff I think is a really good mechanism to have a different type of show than we had in season 1. But having Diego and 5 work together is really good. Having Luther and Vanya meeting up with each other. Having just simply Klaus meeting Ray for the first time, meeting the husband of Alison, I think is a nice little touch in the episode. And yes, the Swedes are absurdly interesting. That knife fight that they have, which doesn't particularly go quite well, probably shows you that they're very different to normal humans in the episode. And we also have the return of the handler and the introduction of AJ. So really, really interesting stuff. I'm really excited to talk about the next episode. We've got one last piece of business before we get out of our discussion on episode 2. John, we're over at the Carousel Club again for our pub quiz. Do you want to give us the question for this episode?
Yes, fellow Brolly Dollies. Yeah, the question for this episode is, what quote does Raymond Chestnut correct Klaus on as they do time together in jail? And from which Shakespeare play is it from?
Ooh, very good.
Yes. So actually what we're looking for is the correct quote and the play. From the Shakespeare play from where it's from. So, there we go.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that, John.
And remember, you can send that through to us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And each episode, send in your feedback. Just make a note in the subject line that it is the pop quiz pub quiz for the Umbrella Academy. Or you can send them all in batches. Whatever you want to do, feel free to send it in. And there will be some Umbrella Academy type prizes for the winner.
Well, not type prizes, some Umbrella Academy prizes. We found a really good one already, but we're hoping that it's not out of stock, so we're not going to say what it is in case it gets out of stock by the end of the season. So that's it. That's the end of our discussion about episode 2 of the Umbrella Academy season 2. Thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you stay subscribed to tvpodcastindustries.com, and we'll have the next episode out before you know it. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
See you soon. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, fellow Brolly Dollies. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep blowing smoke bubbles.
Bye.
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 Bye.